everybody. I am a sex scholar, and today I'm going to rate a sex scene from the White Lotus. And not just any sex scene, we're talking about the brother on brother, will they, won't they, yes they did moment. So first, before we go into this sex scene and my rating of it, I want to talk about some scientific context, some pleasure science context that is really important here, because when I watched this scene, I loved it, but I have a very different perspective from most people because I study human sexuality and I know a thing or two about sexual fantasies and what they actually mean. So I want to talk about that for a second, and then we're going to go into this spicy scene, and I'm going to explain why I liked it so much. So the first thing I want to talk about is incredible and fascinating research by Dr. Justin Lehmiller. He actually wrote a book about sexual fantasies. So Justin has done extensive research and surveying of people all on sexual fantasies and what sexual fantasies are most common. According to this research, about 20% of Americans have fantasized about incest at one point in their life. Now, as a researcher and a scholar, when I see a statistic like that, where it's about 20% of a population, this is what we call a notable minority. So scientifically, we classify minority groups as any group of individuals that is less than half of a population or significantly less than half of a population. And so when we see a number like 20%, we see that while this doesn't affect the entire population, it is quite a notable minority, and 20% of a population is pretty significant. And what I love about this is this just goes to show that these fantasies are more common than you might think, and let's talk about why. So studies show that it is healthy and cathartic to fantasize about your desires without shame. These are sexy desires and all other type of spicy desires. And now something that's really interesting about humans is humans have a huge desire for taboos. We love to play with them. We love to play with the power of them. They're extremely erotic for people. In fact, 1 in 5 people have a kink for taboos, whether they know it or not. Just another fun statistic for you about sexual arousal and sexual fantasies. The science of pleasure shows that your mind actually likes to explore taboo fantasies in the safety of your brain. Your brain is aware that this is a place that isn't always going to translate into real life, and in fact, most often does not lead to people actually acting out their fantasies in real life. But your brain is a safe place to explore taboos, to experience power play, to actually even heal past patterns. There's a lot of research that's been going into this. And another fun fact, when we're thinking about incest specifically, because this is a really hot topic, right? A lot of non-consensual incest can happen, and this is something that myself and any other expert would say we don't condone. And in fact, I'm going to put a link in the description of this video to rainn.org, RAINN.org, an incredible organization if you've ever experienced SA or SA that happened in a family context and there was non-consensual incest happening. The mind explores taboos through your imagination. This includes sexual taboos and other taboos. So it's actually really common for us to fantasize about things that we would never actually do in real life, or potentially wouldn't even want to do in real life, but they fill some sort of need. And in fact, actually something that I've noticed when I've had clients or students and they've mentioned that they've had incest kinks, a lot of the reason why this kink specifically can also be really electrifying and satisfying is because people are so afraid of abandonment and rejection that the idea that your lover can also be a family member can make it feel almost like a really satisfying fantasy, because it feels like this person would never leave you, that you're always supposed to be the top priority because this person is not just a lover, but a family member. Just a little food for thought, right? Like there's a lot of different reasons that have nothing to do with actually acting out this taboo that make it fulfilling, satisfying, and again, just like something that's pleasurable to explore. Studies also show that incest fantasies are way more common than actual incest situations in real life that happen. So this is another good thing to note. Again, when you're fantasizing about things in your brain, it's really unlikely that you're gonna go out and make them happen in real life all the time, right? I mean, we're busy people. And then on top of the fact, if you do fantasize about taboos, there's the fact of like, how your reputation will be, and humans having the urge to protect themselves from social taboos. So another reason to remember, like, it's okay to fantasize in your brain about these things. And again, incest fantasies are way more common than actual happenings and reports of incest, especially in non-consensual ways. And so it's really important to remember that your fantasy does not equal intention, okay? Most people who fantasize about incest do not engage in it. This fantasy often hinges on the taboo itself. It's not the literal desire for a family member. And again, if you've ever experienced any non-consensual incest or any SA, go to rainn.org, rain.org. There are incredible resources there, and I'm putting the link in the description of this video. So now that we've gone over all of the really important science that I wanted you to know, when I was watching the White Lotus and the incest scene, they started to hint at it. Will they, won't they? What is going on with these brothers? We have one brother checking out his other brother's butt for like a full 10 seconds in one episode. Like, things are happening. When I was watching this as a sex scholar, I was looking at this scene through the lens of already understanding that sexual fantasy is healthy and that this show is a fantasy. And two, that it's really common for people to have fantasies about this regardless, not because they're trying to do anything inappropriate with a family member, but because of the taboo itself that can be really sexy. And whether you like it or not, as a culture, we've started to prime this this kink for incest. We've seen it in Game of Thrones. We've seen it in other major media. Oh, and another thing that's really interesting about incest, it's been one of the most popular porn categories since the 1960s. So when I was watching this scene happen on the White Lotus, I wasn't thinking like, this is horrible, this is the worst, how could they, why would the director do this? I was thinking this already is a fantasy that many people have, and it's healthy and cathartic to explore your fantasies without shame. So now let's dive into the actual scene. A little bit of context of what's happening in this scene. If you have not watched The White Lotus yet, this isn't going to give a big spoiler to like the big crescendo that happens at the end, but you're definitely going to get some spicy spoilers right now. So we have these two brothers. I honestly don't even remember their names, but we have these two brothers, the older brother and the middle brother, who's like the younger brother here. They have a threesome with this super hot French woman who is just, honestly, every outfit she wore, vibe, vibe, vibe. Like, get it, girl, we love you. So this French girl is kind of seducing both brothers. She doesn't know which one she's gonna have, but she knows she wants to hook up with somebody. And then her and her friend decide to dare the brothers to kiss. Now, the brothers, everyone here has been drinking, they've taken some drugs and substances. And so in this scene, you know when you're watching a movie and they want to show you that like all the characters are inebriated, so they start making the camera move weird, they start making the lens have a soft focus. So you can tell through watching this scene that the characters are kind of going in and out, they're high on their substances. Then the scene switches to a flashback. So the next day, the brothers wake up, all they know, all they remember, the last thing they remember is, you know, all four of the friends, two girls and then the two brothers, all having fun. The two girls make out, the girls dare the brothers to make out, the brothers do, and then a threesome happens. And so in the next episode, we keep getting these really spicy flashback moments that last, I want to say like 5 to 7 seconds. They're really quick. Like Mike White, the director, is literally edging us. He's gone on record saying like, I'm edging you when you're watching the show. I'm not giving you what you want. And he's doing that with this scene that's super taboo, but also super sexy. And so we keep getting these flashbacks of the two brothers trying to reconcile with the night that they had out, where they both had a threesome with the same girl. And one brother ended up giving a handy to the other. So let's now rate this scene. So the way that I do this, I have 3 different categories for rating. So the first category we have is the spiciness factor. I just want to go on record saying this part is completely subjective, okay? My idea of what's spicy is going to be different from your idea of what's spicy, but honestly, the reason we're watching this is because we all like the spicy stuff. So we're gonna rate the spiciness factor. The next thing I always like to rate is the communication factor. As a sex scholar who helps you feel healthier and empowered in your sexuality, The communication piece is really important for me. This really lays the foundation, and humans learn how to communicate through observing others. So it's so important to see how we're communicating on screen and how this is reflecting communication patterns in real life. And then the third thing we're gonna rate on is the hope factor. This is another really subjective category, but for me, first off, my name means hope. And second, I hope that by watching this video, you learn more, you feel more empowered, your mind opens up. You don't have to agree with everything I say, you don't have to agree with my opinions, but I hope it leaves you feeling a little bit more open-minded and open-hearted than before. And that is all about what the hope category is. I'm looking at this sex scene to see, does this make me feel hope? And what that looks like to me is, does this scene make me feel like the culture and community is better and improving because of this sex scene? Or did this sex scene make me feel like this is something I could have, and you know, I'm about to fall in love, or I'm gonna have good sex, and it makes me feel hopeful and optimistic about what I could achieve in my life? So let's dive into each one. So first off, spiciness factor. So for me, I'm rating this a 7 out of 10. And I'm rating this a 7 out of 10 for several reasons. One, I love taboos. Give me a couple of people who are not supposed to hook up and make them hook up. I will be so happy. I love it. I'm here for it. It doesn't matter if it's like incest or if it's something else. You know, again, when we're watching TV and shows, these are fantasies, right? You're allowed to indulge in them. But I love a good taboo. I also love it when men make out, literally, like, to me, it's like one of the hottest things. I just love it so much. It feels like it's like this vulnerability I rarely get to see from men. And I especially love, speaking of taboos, when we have straight men or straight, you know, appearing men. Neither of the men in the show, like the characters, not the actors, neither the characters confirmed if, you know, I think the both boys might be straight, or at least the characters. But I love it when straight men make out. That was what that whole tangent was for. I just love it. It's a taboo. It's hot. Let's get it. And of course, the French actress. We cannot forget this hottie with all her outfits. Like, amazing. So 7 out of 10 in spiciness. For me, it was taboo. It was will they, won't they. It was like that kind of guilty pleasure feeling of like satisfaction from watching people do something they're not supposed to do. I loved it. 7 out of 10. Now, with the communication factor, again, what I'm looking for is, how are we showing consent? How are we communicating with our lover before and after? How are we honoring each other and our pleasure? So I'm going to rate this a 4 out of 10. Okay. The communication is not good at all. Like, it's really bad. Okay. First off, we have a lot of sex under the influence of substances. So one of the characters, one of the brothers, was really upset because he felt like his brother kind of took the reins, took the cock by the reins, if you will, and gave him a hand job, and it doesn't seem that there was like consent there. Right? It seems like everyone was trying to go with the moment, go with the flow. They were high on substances, so consent becomes questionable. The other reason I would rate this a 4 is also for the conversations that happened afterwards. So after this threesome occurred, the brothers avoided each other. They were not very nice to each other. When they finally got a chance to talk, it was a really one-sided conversation with the older brother just belittling the younger brother trying to explain that he's just a people pleaser in a family of narcissists. He, you know, was just going with the flow. And, you know, all this to say, not good communication before, during, and after any of this. So this is going to get a 4 out of 10. And then, the hope factor. So for me, actually, I'd give this an 8 out of 10. And that's because I loved seeing how this scene created conversation in the culture. This is something like these type of fantasies, and just like incestual sexual relations, we're not often talking about these things, and we should. If we talked about it more, then cases of non-consent between family members would go way down. If we talked about it more, we'd understand our sexual fantasies are just cathartic ways to work things out in our brain, and it doesn't mean we're going to act on it in real life. I loved how this scene created such a stir and such a conversation, including the conversation we're having now. It was really a door opener there for people to think about these things. And so for that, I would rate it an 8 out of 10. So anyway, thank you for watching. Again, remember, my opinions do not need to be your opinions. We are in no way, shape, or form condoning any type of non-consent. And I'm always a resource. If you do need resources, you could always DM me on Instagram at Pleasure Science saying, hey, Nadej, I'd love to find a therapist or something. Do you have any resources? I always look through my DMs and respond to questions like that. And if you have a sex scene you want me to watch, go ahead and leave a comment and let me know, because I'm going to be rating a couple other really spicy ones for you guys. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you for tuning in. And remember to follow Pleasure Science, because sex education should be spicier than what's happening in your group chat. Bye.